Welcome to the Men of Honor podcast. My name is Kuri, your host, and today we're going to be talking about boundaries. I think this is one of the single and most important things within a relationship that is massively overlooked. And every time I look back to any relationship that has ended negatively, or there's been negativity to where somebody felt bad, or I felt bad or guilty for doing something or done something bad, it always comes down to boundaries, whether I've set boundaries or they've set boundaries. And when I say setting boundaries, I mean that in order for a relationship to work where you are both transparent, there's also has to be some forms of boundary. So this is my limit. So what do I mean by this? There's certain things that somebody can say towards you that you can allow them to say, and if that is not what you agree with, that changes your state negatively, or puts you in a state where you're doubting yourself, or you know basically something that is quite negative towards, that's got a negative impact to you. Sometimes because of not wanting to argue or not to cause a problem, you let it go or you let it slide, and to that person they just feel like it's okay. Now, this isn't because the other person is mean or they're doing this on purpose, like they want to put you in a negative state. Sometimes they don't even know that they're putting you into a negative state. But again, this is a common theme amongst marriages, amongst business partners as well, or not just business partners, but or even in business relationships. So it comes down to you being able to speak your piece or say what you need to say in order to put that boundary, saying that I do not like what you've just said about this. So in future, can you not say that or address it? And when you do not address those things, this is exactly what it means when people say doormat. When you know that whenever somebody wants to get dirt off their feet, you just rub, So basically, and this is important because when you when you lower your boundaries or you do not put up any boundaries, people tend to, and I think I'm beginning to see this more and more often, that people sometimes, when they cannot say something to you directly, or they feel frustrated, or they cannot process their emotions negatively, they create a point where they can relieve their stress or relieve whatever negative state they're going through, and they will go through the place where they find the most or the least resistance, and that is usually the places where you've got we have not created any boundaries. So any relationship that you face, or any arguments that you face in your relationships that seem to be reoccurring, and it's just that other person that's trying to release frustration. So you could be arguing about dishes, but really there's something else that is going on that is deeper, or you haven't taken out the bin again, so it's an argument about that, and it's something that is reoccurring, but really that's the point where there's no boundaries. So that's where it's almost like open season. So whenever they feel negatively affected by anything of life, in terms of life, they've come through that point where they'll be able to vent that frustration, and then so it's almost like a point where they transfer. If I'm feeling shit, then I want to make you feel shit. And again, I take it. One thing is that it's not on purpose. It's just natural behavior of human beings. We tend to want to share our problems. And sometimes if we can't share our problems and we feel frustrated, we just subconsciously create issues in order to vent. And it's relieving because there's a lot of chemical things that are happening within your brain and in your body. So that's the reason why we vent. So if you're feeling anger, there's high levels of cortisol, and in order to relieve that, you want to get shots of adrenaline to sort of try and neutralize that whole thing. That's the reason why you want to argue. That's the reason why you want to get into that sort of fight mentality. And that's why when you don't have boundaries, it becomes that different points. It's almost like filling a plastic bag. Back when we were younger, we used to take. They used to give out condoms and stuff, and we used to take them just to fill them up with water, and then you try and pop them. And it's almost like, imagine you fill up this condom with water, and then you're trying to stab it with a knife or whatever. And basically, that's what it is. That when somebody is frustrated, they go for that weakest point, and then they just stab at it because it's your weak point. It's something that is got no barrier. But if you put that barrier in place and say, no, I'm not going to allow you to talk to me like that. I'm not going to be your punching bag. I'm not going to be that point where you're going to vent your frustration because you're frustrated. You're more likely to now dig deeper into what they're going through. So because they know they cannot vent through that place, they're now in that position where they have to speak about what's really at the core of what's bothering them. They're not using something else in order to reveal, whatever. So I hope this makes sense, and I wish I was doing it as a video so I can sort of diagram it out, because it makes better sense with visually when I can give you a visual representation of what's actually happening. And I'm speaking from experience in many areas of my life, marriage, work, friendships. There's places where I've not had any barriers up, and I found myself in real caring situations where things were quite difficult, and sometimes it's gone for so long that I can't even address it, because there's that it's been going on for so long. It's now normal for that to happen. But if you listen to this and you're in that situation and you feel like sometimes you're in a situation where whether you've got real carrying arguments with your missus, or you got everybody that comes to you, and for some reason you're always to blame for something just because you're an easy target. It's something that you can actually change, and you discovering why it's happening. It always comes down to you creating those barriers. Now, why would you not raise the barriers, or at least put those boundaries? Well, it always comes down to how you feel about yourself. So usually if you feel shit about yourself, then you're going to allow people to treat you like shit. It's one of those things. And it's up until I started going through this journey of self-discovery and wanting to live my life by design, I started figuring out that the reason why I didn't put up boundaries with people is that I wanted to please people, and I would put everybody else's feelings before my own, because I didn't feel like I was worth somebody else giving me respect. So I had no respect for myself. Because I've got no respect for myself, then therefore I will allow things that are not, I would allow certain behaviors that most people would never allow. So if somebody was calling me names or whatever, and I had this when I was at school, when people were calling me names, I just took it. I didn't fight. I didn't talk back. I didn't do it. It just felt like that was just normal, and it's carried on into my adulthood. So there's situations where people have been in situations where it's just quite confrontational, not being lack of skill or fighting, but I would choose not to fight or argue or whatever. It's just one of those things that I've done over a lifetime. But one of the reasons I regret is the fact that because I didn't do anything, that thing will stick with me and becomes one of the tumbling things, or something that is constantly. It's almost like a cancer that every time you don't do it, you don't stand up for yourself, that scenario continuously plays in your head that I wish I'd said something, I wish I had done something, and that person would have forgotten about it and would have moved on, but you are still reliving it. And it's that definition of suffering, that the difference between pain is that you might get injured and it goes away, but suffering is long term, and that suffering happens within your head. That you can continue replaying that thing in your head, and the longer you play it, that's what you call it's like that's the suffering that you go through. So summing this up, it becomes very important to put up barriers, but in order for you to put up those barriers, you need to start having something that you can do in order to start solving things within yourself that create self-respect and that builds you up. So even looking at things, the reasons why you feel like you're not respecting yourself. So, and in my own personal experience and the things that I'm doing right now, just I'm in my car and there's now the windows picked up. Just hold on a second. I'm sorry about this. I'm just gonna lift my windows up. So I usually record in my car, so because it's a little bit quieter. But yeah, so what I was saying is that the what I've been doing lately is the fact that I've been looking more into what makes me feel like I'm not worth what I'm worth, and part of it is the fact that instead of confronting the things that make me feel bad or make me revisit the trauma and everything else. Before, I used to run away, so I would run away by eating food. So I would suppress those emotions, those negative emotions. Eating food, I would suppress it by visiting porn sites and stuff like that. And I would even binge watch films and stuff just so I can escape my mind, so I do not have to revisit those things. And I'm find myself now trying to spend longer times where I'm just thinking about my things and reflecting, but not trying to escape. And by not escaping, I'm beginning to dig deeper into why I feel I've I've been running away from trauma, and then what is that trauma that I'm running away from, and how is that going to impact? Because some of the things that we do, we're just trying to avoid that pain or reliving that pain. So yeah, I've done this for the past few weeks, and part of it is now that I'm now working towards dealing with it, and part of it is also now trying to do things, positive things to demonstrate to myself that I'm going to be showing some respect. So in terms of my body, I'm not trying to show a bit more respect. That I eat whatever I want now, but at the same time, I'm now going to uh, I still go to the gym and I relatively eat healthy. So I'm not trying to stick to some certain diet or do some sort of regime. I just want to do positive things, wake up to some meditation, have some time to reflect on the things that I'm grateful for, eat relatively healthy, and just do things that are positive. And I think I spoke about this recently about having small micro wins, and those micro wins become big wins in the long run. So hopefully this has been helpful. It's something that I've recently discovered, and I thought it'd be interesting to share. If you like this, can you please leave a review on the podcast platform that you listening this on? I just realized that the algorithms for those, if you like it, if you like it and you put a review, it tells them that this content is pretty good, and then it will put it straight, if you show it to more people, and then that way we can continue building on our community as the Men of Honor. If you're a lady and you're listening to this and you think or you know a man that might want to listen to this, please share it with them. And thank you very much for listening.